Alrighty, everybody. Good morning. It is October 30th, 2025. At currently 3:45 a.m., 3:46. But I hope everyone is doing good. We are back for more Melissa updates here. It's been pretty crazy last couple days with what Melissa has been doing here, but anyways, everybody, hope everyone's been safe, been doing well. I'll tell you what, man, the storm has been quite a beast. Wow, the thing is huge now. That thing is tall. Here, let's go ahead and loop the satellite imagery here. Go ahead and look at it up close. Yeah, so it's definitely not as good looking as it once was because it's not very happy right now because it's been running into land a lot lately. Of course, with that landfall that we had in Jamaica, then of course the landfall we had yesterday in Cuba that we covered. Storms out there, kind of pulling away from the Bahamas right now. Unfortunately, we weren't able to really make it to coverage for them today, but we're here now. I mean, they are still getting impacted, so we'll talk about that. But also, we got to really watch out for our folks up here in Bermuda. They actually issued hurricane warnings now in effect for Bermuda. Not to mention, we're also going to have to watch out for Newfoundland here. We do have the cone getting pretty close to the far eastern sides, of Newfoundland, out by like St. Mary's Bay area. Was that Trepassey Bay, maybe? But we do got to watch out for eastern Newfoundland because the cone has actually shifted a bit to the west here. And the thing is that still by this time, it's still going to be quite a strong storm here. I mean, the Hurricane Center, they still have the system remaining a Category 1 storm here for the evening of Halloween, which I guess today is Halloween Eve, I'm pretty sure at this point. But yeah, we do have some impacts out there going to be kind of expected here. We'll do a deep dive into models here in a few moments, in which we'll look at that. But anyways, so this is it right now. Like we mentioned, it's not very happy at the moment. It's pretty mad. We are currently sustaining 100-mile-an-hour winds right now, so we're sustained at 100. We're gusting about 110, 120 miles an hour currently. The central low is down to 970 millibars at the current moment here. So the pressure has increased quite dramatically since, obviously, since yesterday. So the pressure has indeed gone up a bit, but still 970 is still pretty high. But yeah, so that's it right now. Like I mentioned, it's not very happy. There's no, visible eye. I mean, there's a little bit of clearing trying to kick up here in the middle of the storm, but it's just that's not the full-on eye. It's struggling a little bit, like we mentioned here. But anyways, so hopping over here to the Hurricane Center. Pulling up the latest info. So right now, here's the estimated winds within the storm here. We'll even zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. So you can see those estimated tropical storm force winds here in the yellow. So those are kind of exiting the Bahamas. They obviously had those hurricane warnings in effect here because hurricane conditions were expected. The good news is that at this point in time, the hurricane force winds have now left the Bahamas, which leads us right now to just seeing a bit of tropical storm conditions out here still for the Bahamas. But, overall, they are still getting impacted here. But the next thing we got to really look out for is, like we mentioned, Bermuda. Right now, they're actually under hurricane warnings now in effect. Because, earlier they were hurricane watches. But since then, the Hurricane Center has now pushed up, to hurricane warnings in effect here. And, like I mentioned, it's not just Bermuda that we got to look out for here, too. It's also eastern Newfoundland, because, the cone does have the system eventually getting pretty close to out there. So, that's going to be another area that we will definitely need to be looking at here for. So, anyways, I do want to bring up the mesofloater satellite imagery here. We'll go ahead and hop you guys over to that here now. So here's a bit more high-res data here. So you can see, I mean, we're still convecting pretty good. We still got a lot of convection, towards the center of the storm here. But like I said, it's pretty lopsided. It's a little bit upset right now. But we are definitely seeing, a bit of A bit of rotation still obviously going on with it, that counterclockwise rotation. So it's, it's still intact somewhat, but it's very disorganized at this point in time. And, it's not really, doesn't really have any eye or any visible. There's been some clearing popping up every once in a while, but it's, it just hasn't been able to get that eye going again here. So another thing I want to look at here is we'll bring you guys over to the water vapor scan. So you can see actually on the western side of the storm here. Here, let me maybe zoom out a little bit here so you guys can see maybe a little bit better of a view here. Actually, you know what? I think here, let me you know what we're going to do? We're just going to bring you guys over here. I'm going to bring this there, and boom. So it makes it a lot, a lot better there. So anyways, but yeah, you can see there's a bit of dry air on the western side of the storm here, but still the system is, has plentiful amount of moisture. This has been one wet storm here. It's been bringing tons and tons of precipitation overall. So I mean, it's definitely been pretty active here. Let me actually bring up my chat. I don't know if the chat's not working or not. Let me double check real quickly, make sure the chat's actually working. But yeah, for some reason it doesn't look like it's been working. I haven't been getting any of the comments or Nightbot or anything like that. I have no clue what's going on there. But anyways, but yeah, like I said, I mean, it's definitely, not very happy right now as compared to what it was here. So on the forecast track, so the system's actually going to be a bit stronger than what we thought here as we do approach the regions out here by Bermuda. It's not going to be a direct landfall, for Bermuda here, but we'll definitely need here. Let's move this back over to the other monitor here. But we do need to definitely look out there because, once again, they do have hurricane warnings in effect for Bermuda now. So at this point in time, we're likely going to be seeing some hurricane conditions, and we'll get into models here in a minute, and I'll show you guys that. But, looking here at the closest marker that we have here. So this is for today. This is at 8 p.m. So later on this evening today. At this point in time, the Hurricane Center, they actually mentioned that the storm could actually pick up a bit of strength here. So that's something that we'll look out there for. Here, let me check and make sure my chat's working. I don't know if I accidentally turned off chat or something, because not even Nightbot's saying anything, which usually it does. Here, let me try that real fast. Let me go back to edit. I just want to make sure if you guys can, if any of y'all are there, could you try commenting? If not, then I might need to fix that. Let's see here. Live reactions. Let's see here. Who can send me? Yeah, it says anybody. Huh. That's weird. Maybe just Nightbot's not working. Oh, okay, there we go. Gringo. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. I wasn't sure what was going on there, man. Y'all been quiet this morning, I tell you. Also, Nightbot's been quiet. That's what was making me think that there's something wrong with my settings or something. But what's up, Gringo? Good to see you, dude. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for confirming that with me. I really appreciate that. But anyways, so yeah, they actually have the system strengthening a little bit here, just before we approach out there by Bermuda. So here for this evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be seeing sustained winds of about 105 miles an hour. We'll be gusting to right about 125-ish, rounding 127. That's closer to 125. So we go off. If it was 128, it would be closer to 130. But currently, wind gusting about 125 here later this evening. Still quite a significant storm, but a little bit of strengthening is expected between now, from where we're at the current moment, and once we get out here by Bermuda overall. What's up, VM? Good to see you. Saying great coverage of hurricane. Well, thank you. Oh, now Nightbot's writing. Of course. Took a minute. See, I don't think people didn't get the notification. You know what? YouTube's been pretty bad at that. Not getting out those notifications and stuff, I've noticed. It's been pretty bad lately at that, I've noticed. Let's see here. Backstorm says, thank you for staying on this one and keeping us updated. Yeah, of course. No problem. Like I said, we're here for you guys. We'll be sure to keep you guys updated. It's something I promised you, in which, even any other storm system, we'll be on it just like we are on this one. But, I'm really happy to be here with you guys. It's honestly It's good to be here. But the good news is, like I said, most of the destruction, I believe, is over with, but it's not over yet. Unfortunately, like we mentioned, we still have Bermuda to go through, and then even eastern Newfoundland, in which we're going to definitely have to look out for, because they're now in the cone. These areas actually could get hit pretty good. Here, let me actually bring up the models here. We'll go ahead and take a look at those. I'm going to bring up Aguacero so I can pull this up here, and we'll dive into models. Do I even have? Oh, I do. Nice. I forgot I set up the scene here. Okay. So, let's go ahead and bring up... What's up, Jeff? Good to see you. Saying good morning. Good morning, dude. Hope you're doing well. So let's bring up the... What are we going to look at first? Let's look at the wind gusts. We'll do max wind gusts. So this kind of looks at the winds at a maximum for everybody. So you can see the track that... the system does bring here. But yeah, I mean, look at this. Even from the... This is the GFS model, by the way. We do have ourselves quite a bit of strong wind gusts here. I mean, even expected for, the United States northeast coast here. I mean, we could be seeing some gusts upwards of maybe 50 miles an hour or so, along like coastal New England, which, that might be something we need to look out for. Also, Nova Scotia here. I mean, we're talking 60 mile an hour wind gusts. That could still be damaging. Absolutely. But yeah, off the coast here, out there just east of like St. John's, those areas are going to get hit pretty good. Let's see here, Whitbourne, I think it is. So you got St. Mary's Bay could be seeing about 60 mile an hour winds or so. Yeah, I mean, just off the coast. It really depends on how close the system does get, to eastern Newfoundland. But we'll have to see. But I mean, regardless, there's definitely going to be pretty strong winds here. Let me compare that to Euro. It's good to compare models. Never good to just look at one. Euro is actually a lot less significant than the GFS here, but still definitely some pretty heavy wind gusts here. And it's actually a little bit more severe on the winds for the coastal northeastern U.S., out there. Like, we definitely could be getting quite a bit out to like Cape Cod area. I mean, definitely going to be getting quite a bit of strong winds out here. So definitely something we do need to continue to look at. Now, Bermuda... Okay, yeah, so Bermuda, on the other hand, it looks like we're going to be having some gusts, according to the European model, right around 75 miles an hour. So that's right up to hurricane force winds here. Gringo says it's pronounced Newfoundland. What? Newfoundland? Really? I always heard it as Newfoundland. Or, yeah, Newfoundland. Newfoundland. Is it really? All right, let's bring up the GFS here. Let's compare that. Okay, so yeah, GFS is actually more significant overall. Has that system, gusting near 80 miles an hour or so, out there by Bermuda. So, it's not going to be that direct landfall, over there, but it will definitely be, still gusting upwards of that here. Let's bring up some of those individual hurricane models here. We'll take a look at the HWRF here first. Let's do 10-meter winds. All right, so we work our way down in time. Okay, so there's the HWRF here. So you can see Bermuda right here on the eastern side of the storm here overall. And it does show those wind barbs. What is that, about 45 knots? Yeah, about 45-knot wind barbs here for a lot of Bermuda. It seems like some of the strongest winds are going to be on the western side here. Remember, we could be having higher gusts, too. Okay, so those gusts are likely going to be a bit higher. Like some of the models were suggesting there, like GFS and Euro were like 70-mile-an-hour winds out there, gusts. So we're going to be seeing about sustained of about 50 miles an hour, maybe 50, 55, or 60, with gusts up to about maybe 70 or so. So definitely still, very impactful. Another thing is going to be like, the wave height, too. It's going to be pretty significant. But it could have been a whole lot worse. I mean, we'll definitely still need to watch the track. But, yeah, models are suggesting the system will just pass west of Bermuda. But like I said, there still definitely could be some significant impacts out there. So, moving on to HMON. This one actually has that wind field a lot bigger, I believe, here. Yeah, so there's actually some 50-knot flags here. We can barely see it on the screen, but there is some 50-knot flags according to the HMON model. You can actually see right there. This is for the morning of the 31st, showing actually about 60-knot wind barbs here. So that would bring us about 65, 70 mile an hour sustained. So the HMON definitely wants that system to be a lot more significant than like the HWRF out there. We'll be gusting possibly even higher. So that's likely why we have some of those hurricane warnings in place here. HAFSA, let's see here, has the system, delivering about 50 knot wind barbs out there. You can see both on the eastern side and on once it gets on the south side of the system here, which is going to be the morning of the 31st. The late 30th, so late today, going into early Halloween here is when we're going to be dealing with these impacts here. What's up, Sleeveless? Good to see you. Saying good evening / morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing good out there, my friend. Yeah, it's pretty early here. It's this is my afternoon. I think I've been up. What time did I get up? I think I got up at like 8 p.m. or so. I've been total nocturnal because of the storm here. I've been completely nighttime mode, the entire storm, which has just been a lot of fun. Covering the system at nighttime. But with all the hours we put in it, but I'm really happy to. Like I said, I'm really glad I was able to be here. But it's just my sleep schedule's been so messed up because of the system here. But HAFSA definitely shows some pretty significant winds out here. HAFSB, let's see here. Yeah, right on the line of 45 to 50 knots. So, about 50, 55 mile an hour winds sustained here. So, quite a bit here. What's up, Leo? Good to see you. You as well, my friend. Let's see, when Kringo, I don't even know, or not Kringo. I'm sorry. Is it Gringo? Saying, I don't even know who that is, to be honest. I ain't gonna lie. I am not familiar with that name. Anyways, let's hop back over here, y'all. So, like I said, you guys, right now, she is a Category 2 storm. We are currently sustaining 100 mile an hour winds. So, we are going to see a little bit of strengthening before we approach Bermuda, which, previously wasn't really expected. But we are likely going to be picking up maybe a little bit more strength on the storm here. Anyway, so we are seeing 100 sustained. The central pressure is now down to 970 millibars here. Which, what's really interesting is that's actually the pressure I recorded in Hurricane Milton as it made landfall over me. Here in the Lakeland area, it was down to 970. So we were like, I was in that Category 2 for Milton anyway. So this is pretty similar strength to that storm here. But Category 2, so we are 100 sustained, pressure is down to 970 millibars. So as we approach our way over here into later this morning, you can see the Hurricane Center actually does show a little bit of strengthening here, not by a whole lot, but it does show the wind speed, so sustained winds here being around 105 miles an hour, rounding to, and we'll be gusting about 125 miles per hour. So it'll be Category 2 strength still. And then, of course, we continue down in time here. So here's Bermuda over here. By the time we get closer to Bermuda, not much strengthening. Still about 105 sustained, gusting about 125 or so. Still Category 2. Then once it passes north of Bermuda, it's definitely going to be entering some cooler waters, which is going to be allowing for the storm to actually start to weaken quite a bit, for good at that point. Let's see here. Rainbow says Atlantic Canada will be used to what Melissa may bring them as well as Bermuda. Yeah, that's true. Bermuda seems to be getting hit a lot lately, from what I've noticed. I think they got hit real hard. What was it? Earlier this year, or was that last year? Or both. I don't even remember. Like I said, my memory is terrible on these systems. I do remember covering Bermuda quite a bit. I got you, Gringo. Let's see here. Rainbow says, stay safe, y'all, and prayers up. Absolutely. Good to see you, Rainbow. Hope you're doing good, my friend. Haven't seen you in a little bit. Hope everything's been well with you. So that's that. I don't think we have any cameras or anything. We do have some observational stations around here. Let's see. We also have the one out there by Bermuda, so that'll be pretty interesting. So we'll be doing coverage here. So tomorrow or later this evening, we'll be live for more coverage on Bermuda. We'll definitely be making sure to do some more coverage. And then, like I said, at this point in time, we're probably going to need some more coverage for eastern Newfoundland, apparently. So we'll definitely be doing that coverage. Now, in the extended range here, it does have the system pulling into well up into the North Atlantic here. in which we're definitely going to be seeing the system work its way closer, to Europe. But it's kind of hard to tell what it's going to get, what it's going to do at that point. By then, it's significantly weakened, so will not be nearly as strong of a system by then here. All right, let's hop on back over here, y'alls. We're going to take a look here. So this is the latest satellite imagery, as you guys can tell. We are definitely seeing quite a bit of convection still ongoing here. There's no visible eye. It's kind of exhausted right now. It's not really too happy. After making landfall there in Cuba and also there in Jamaica, of course, and the Bahamas here too. That is that. So. One thing I do want to hop you guys over here too. Once again, actually, we'll take a look at the total rainfall. With the latest update here. So still definitely quite a bit of rain. They do have areas out by like Crooked Island, receiving about 6 to 8 inches of rainfall. Long Island here about 6 to 8. San Salvador and Rum Cay about 6 to 8 inches of rainfall out here. Cat Island about an additional 2 to 4 inches. And the Turks and the Caicos, those areas are pretty much done with all that precipitation. Ragged Island about 2 to 4 inches. They do not have any totals for Bermuda, but a big but. I can bring up the models, and we can look and see kind of just how much we're talking. So let's actually do that. Let's hop over to models here. We'll go ahead and bring up the precipitation. We'll do total rain here. That way we can kind of see what the models are suggesting. So we have the GFS here. Take this with a grain of salt. But according to, wow, GFS has like a very little amount of rain, only showing like 0.3 of an inch. No way. Here, let me try Euro. What does Euro say? Or Shay? That's a new word. What does Euro say? Euro doesn't have it hardly getting anything. Wow. So maybe that dry air starts to get to it or something here. Let's bring you over here for a minute. Let's see. What is the precip? You know what? Yeah, look at that. Looks like we have quite a dry environment here. Oh yeah, you see that big gap in our dew point and our temperature on our SQT charts? That is telling us right there that there is low humidity towards mid levels at least. Maybe still some clouds. You can see a cloud layer about 850, 900 millibars or so. But yeah, pretty dry actually. Northern side stays pretty saturated. Definitely quite a bit of moisture involved. But yeah, the southern side, once it passes out by Bermuda, it seems to be pretty dry. So that explains, just exactly why we're hardly seeing any precipitation here. Let me let's bring up some of these hurricane models. Let's do HWRF here, and we'll add composite reflectivity here. Here we go. So HWRF kind of shows, maybe a couple little bands maybe working its way out there. But yeah, it honestly keeps Bermuda pretty dry for the most part. But they're still going to be getting those winds here. Let's see here. Search the word in YouTube. It'll show the pronunciation. Okay. VM says, let's see, we always get the tail ends of hurricanes here in Britain. There's warnings of strong winds heading our way from Melissa. Gotcha. Yeah, it does seem pretty common that you guys do get some of the remnants. Let's see, the Turks and Caicos got lucky. Yeah, they, from what it looks like, they definitely missed out quite a bit. It's really, a lot of these central and southern Bahamas that got hit, just off of the Turks here. Cuba got hit real hard. Obviously, Jamaica did too. Very destructive storm here. Here's actually the history, the wind history from the storm. You guys can see. So the yellow indicates that tropical storm force winds, which was, which is equivalent to 39 to 74 mile an hour sustained winds here. So that's the yellow areas, and then you have that 74 plus mile an hour winds here in the red, which shows you the hurricane force winds here in the red. So you can see we gained hurricane strength just south of Cuba, southeast of Jamaica. System rapidly intensified as it worked very, very slowly to the west here. Then we had that cold front come in, which actually steered the storm direction right into Jamaica. West Jamaica had those hurricane force winds. Then, of course, it went back into the waters here, briefly re-strengthened to a Cat 4, but then hit Cuba as Cat 3 again. And then hurricane force winds went through, and they continued up here into the Bahamas. Now, at this point in time, currently where these winds are at here, like I mentioned, the good news is that the hurricane force winds at this point in time are, likely just outside of the Bahamas. Per last update, you can see the red, that's the hurricane force wind field right now, is outside of the Bahamas. However, the tropical storm force winds are, still likely affecting, some of the central Bahamas, but, kind of lower in tropical storm force, except for whatever that far eastern island is here, kind of closer to maybe more of those upper level tropical storm force winds here. So definitely, still impacting the area for sure. I mean, they're definitely still getting it pretty good. But like I mentioned, next up we got Bermuda, which they now have hurricane warnings in effect here. So they're going to be dealing with that here very, very soon. And the way it looks like it's going to be a fairly dry system for Bermuda. It doesn't look like we're really going to have a whole lot of rainfall out for Bermuda. But we are likely going to be dealing with quite a bit of winds, associated with that system. The models were kind of suggesting, winds in excess of 70 plus, gusts, and sustained winds of, possibly about 50 or 60 or so. So we'll be sustaining about tropical storm force from what it looks like, and we'll be gusting hurricane force here. So we'll just continue to monitor that. I mean, that could fluctuate a little bit more. Once again, it depends on how far east in the cone it goes. I mean, because obviously, let me actually go ahead and draw here. So you have Bermuda right here. You have the cone, so the far eastern point over here. You have the far western point over here. So, oops, okay. I guess we're doing that now. Anyway, why isn't it letting me draw? There we go. Okay. But yeah, the center of the storm could go somewhere between these boundaries here. So the eye could wobble a little bit. So if the storm's eye goes closer to Bermuda, that would ensure that we do get more stronger winds because that wind field will be closer. But if the system goes more farther west, it ensures that the system is farther away from Bermuda, which would in sense lower the winds and stuff like that. But still, I mean, either scenario of it going west or east here, at this point in time, I mean, they're definitely going to be feeling the winds quite a bit. Like I mentioned, I mean, we could definitely see a little bit of strengthening in the storm here before we reach the Bahamas, or sorry, not the Bahamas, Bermuda. Right now we're sustaining 100-mile-an-hour winds, Category 2, but they do have it picking up slightly to 105, which is only 5-mile-an-hour difference. Ooh, huge difference, but still, it'll be passing Bermuda as a Category 2 more than likely. So it'll still be a pretty strong storm. People still, you can't underestimate even Category 1s or tropical storms because they could still cause quite a bit of problems, for these areas here, especially with the winds and also the waves here too. Actually, we'll look at that real quickly. That's going to be another thing that we'll have to dive into as well. It's going to be the winds, the waves. It's going to be pretty big. So let's do significant wave height here. This is the GFS model, so you can actually see Bermuda. We're going to be likely seeing a good 30-foot waves or more. Possibly. According to GFS, it shows between 25 to 30-foot waves, out there by Bermuda, which is just wild. Euro, is kind of in agreement, actually, showing about 25 to 30-foot waves out there. So they're going to be getting hit pretty hard by the winds and the waves. But, like I said, the rainfall, not going to be nearly as big of an issue as it was for other areas like the Bahamas, Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic. It was a big rain problem for those areas, but for this storm here, for these areas out in Bermuda, it's gonna be a little bit different of a story. What's up, Ball? Good to see you, my friend. Saying hi, Andrew. Good to see you, dude. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining. Hope you're doing good. But yeah, like I said, we'll just we'll definitely keep an eye out there for it. And like I said, we will be doing coverage for for Bermuda there as well. And like we mentioned, we're likely even going to probably need some coverage as the system does work its way up here towards Newfoundland here. We'll have to, take a look out there because, the cone now includes those areas, quite a bit here. I mean, we got some mesonets out here too. We can peek at whenever the system does work its way near. It's cold there right now, though. Look at that. Temperatures, is that 44 degrees, 42 degrees, and then next thing you know, they're getting ready to get a tropical system. So quite an aggressive change here in the weather there. It's pretty nuts here. Hey, let me check up on the U.S. real quickly. Let's see what we got going on here. Any severe weather? We do have a severe weather risk here for day 1 today. Looks like any tornado. Oh, we got a tornado threat here for like Virginia, a little bit of North Carolina, Maryland, Pennsylvania. We have Delaware here, and of course a little bit of New Jersey. Let's see, 5% wind threat. No hail today, though. Yeah, just a bit of a wind and maybe tornadoes today. Here, let's see. Tomorrow, look pretty good. Day 2, day 3. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot. Definitely fall weather is coming. We're getting quite a bit of cooler air working their way in the country, too. Which, like we mentioned, whenever you actually introduce a lot of cold air into the country, after it being really warm, that can actually make the atmosphere pretty unstable, which can, create some more severe weather events, which, this time of the year, it's pretty common to get more severe weather than we do typically during the summertime. So, yeah, that's, with those frontal systems, they can really bring quite a bit of severe weather, which we'll have to look into. Let's see here. It looks like it's going to be pretty rough on the Outer Banks wave-wise. Yeah, I mean, those waves are definitely going to be reaching, the States here, too. This is, once again, the Euro, kind of showing, some pretty big waves. I don't know if you guys care. Let me actually show it to where you guys can see the... There you go. Now you guys can actually see the key here. So, yeah, I mean, out there by, like, the coastal North Carolina, I mean, we could be getting... maybe upwards of 10-foot waves or so. Not nearly as significant as like Bermuda, but you can see Bermuda here. I mean, they're like right in, a good 25 to 30 foot or so there. It's pretty wild. Definitely getting some pretty big waves out there. That's going to be for sure. I mean, it really influences also in the northeastern U.S. too. I mean, you can see across the northeast. I mean, they're going to really be getting some big waves out there. It's going to be pretty rough, actually. Yeah, once these systems pull to the north, the waves do tend to get pretty big from what it looks like here. But yeah, out there by like coastal New Jersey, like Long Island, we have here, like Rhode Island possibly too. Massachusetts, coastal Maine, really big waves here. Let's go to East. I think we have. Let's see. We should have a Canada. Oh yeah, here we go. Canada view, which I don't think. Oh no, it doesn't have the waves. Well, that's stupid. Why doesn't it have the waves? Here, let's go back to that real quickly. Significant wave height. Well, you can kind of see it there. Definitely quite a bit of big waves out there by like Nova Scotia there too. I mean, we're talking like a good 20 plus feet out there. Newfoundland there. Definitely on the southern coast could get quite a bit. And of course, eventually that's going to get kind of caught up in the up north towards the Arctic Circle, which eventually will kind of drag the system up. But, yeah, don't want to go too far because models, they're a little iffy the further you look out. Let's see here. The Hatteras and the rock oak is oak. How do you say that? I have no idea. I'm not even going to try. I know Chesapeake. Chesapeake Bay actually could get a little bit of winds, a little bit of waves here. Let's look. It won't be anything significant though. Yeah, out there like Virginia Beach, we could get some little bit of higher waves out there, but yeah, most of the impacts for the U.S. In terms of waves is going to be for the Northeast by far. Definitely shown quite a bit. Actually, another thing I want to show you guys here is the rip current concern that we actually have here. So if we look at the rip current map here, zoom out just a tad. So here we'll do the composite overall so you guys can kind of see. So we obviously have eastern Florida here in the red, which is a high rip current concern here. We have a moderate concern for rip currents here for coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina, bits of like southern coastal North Carolina. This is between today and tomorrow. And then, of course, we have the high risk here as well, for rip currents along the eastern North Carolina, which, eventually that's just going to continue to pull to the north here. As we start to get bigger waves, we're going to have a bit of a rip current concern. once you start moving a lot of water like that, it'll really mess it up. So just be sure. I mean, I'd try to avoid the beaches, overall, for at least a while before those waves do calm down quite a bit. Gringo says Maine. Yeah, so Maine's definitely going to be dealing with some pretty big waves out there, too. I mean, you can see coastal Maine. I mean, this is Euro, by the way. Does show some pretty heavy waves just off the coast of Maine there. A good 20 foot or so. Pretty far out there, about 50 miles or so out of Maine. I mean, they're going to be pretty big waves. Let's see, GFS also kind of agrees on that there, too. Definitely having areas like Nova Scotia getting hit real hard by some of these waves. Yeah, pretty good agreement, though, between the models with that. Let's see here. Ocracoke. Is that how you say that? I am not good with names, y'all. Like I said, if y'all are new here, that's something that you guys are going to learn real fast, is that I'm not good with the names. People names and town names and stuff like that. I'm not really the best. Not really the best at too much. But anyways, but like I said, y'all, right now, storm is pulling away from the Bahamas here. We are still sustaining 100 mile an hour winds here. Central low down to 970. Let me see if do we have any recon missions. Ooh, we do. Look at this. Apparently we got the hurricane hunters out on this guy, or going out to it. Let's see, they're en route going to Melissa. Looks like they took off out of, what is that, Gulfport, Mississippi. I think it's a WC-130J. Yeah, they're flying, and they just flew over the eastern panhandle, the eastern panhandle of Florida. So it's going to take their, wow, they're measuring quite strong winds. Holy cow. What is their altitude right now? Let's see, does it say? They're at like 8,000 meters. What is that in feet? Or freedom units? Let's see, 8,000 meters to feet. Is that 10,000 feet maybe? No, that's 26,000. Okay. So 26,000 feet. Okay, so they're pretty high up there. But still, I mean, for 26,000 feet, look at that. Look at how fast of winds they're going into right now. They reached this area of, what is that? Between 96 to 113 knots. Like, that's really, really strong winds. You got dual flags there, too. It's 100 knots there. Yeah, dual flag's 100 knots. This is 95 knots here. So, yeah, well, each long little twig is 10 knots. A half a twig is 5 knots. And the triangle, that is 50 knots here. Wow. That's something else, man. Yeah, look at the graph, too, showing the flight level winds. That's just... It's got to be that frontal system there. Yeah, you can see the winds, they just gradually gone up. Gradually. Also, the temperature rapidly dropped the higher they went up, though. Further east they go. I mean, they're maintaining altitude. It seems like the temperature's going up, though, which makes sense because they're getting closer to that warm sector. Like ahead of the front here. Which, if you look closely in Florida, you can actually see that front there. That's kind of been rolling through there. Trust me, we feel it. I'm out here in Lakeland area. This is where the hurricane hunters take out of, Lakeland, and I'm in this area. We just had that. Let's see what's our weather. 66. What? For us, that is pretty cold. Pretty cold. Dew point 55. Here, I'm actually going to bring up my Mesonet, y'all. I do have a Mesonet. Like a legit Mesonet. I'll go ahead and show you guys here. We'll bring up my station data here. Stations, Lakeland, Florida. This is my weather station here. So, see the winds. Yeah, I had a little bit of an outage there for a little bit. Also, that big spike in temperature was me whenever I opened, or no, what it was is I was out lighting the grill. I made some swordfish on the grill today, and the temperature briefly spiked up because some of the heat from the charcoal grill got to it. But yeah, I mean, look how much the temperatures are just tanking right now. Pretty crazy. Humidity's on the right, by the way. Temperature on the left. But yeah, I need to fix my pressure sensor. It's been fluxing. I think it's some type of voltage issue. But yeah, it's definitely been getting colder. You can see that big drop in the temps there. Wow. Pretty cold. Here, let me show you guys the about here. I'll show you guys what my station looks like. Oh, wait, hold up. I forgot. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Site information. That's right. Should be 2 photos down here. There you go. That's my station. Actually, that's an outdated version of my station. My station looks a lot different now. It's actually taller, and it has a cross arm at the top now. But yeah, that took me a long time making. But a big shout out to my buddy in St. Louis, Quentin. He helped me out build this thing. Got dew point sensor, got our temperature sensor, got our pressure port here, which regulates the flow to give a good pressure reading. Here's our box, has all the like the data logger, my pressure sensor, all that stuff in there, and then of course the RM Young anemometer. Yeah, $3,000. That hurt the wallet a bit, but it's good for research, because that's actually a thing I do as well. Other than streaming weather, I do weather research too. So with that station, I constantly keep it running, and I do a lot of measurements, and I do some weather research, and that's how I've also learned a lot about the environment too. It's just by going through all that data during these events. Hurricanes like Milton, that pressure I was telling you guys, I got down to 971. The winds were a little off during Milton for some reason. I think we only had like 40 mile an hour winds, but realistically we had about 90 mile an hour winds where I was at. Which, yeah, it was definitely windier. The reason is because the roof was higher than my anemometer was. That's why it's a lot taller now, is because it peaks over the roof now, so I can actually get the real flow. But yeah, anyways, enough of that. Just thought I'd share. But yeah, we do have some similar stations out here. Also, like I said, in Bermuda too, we have this one station out by the airport here. So we'll keep an eye on that whenever we do the coverage for Bermuda. Let's see here. Ball says that's what saved Florida, I think. What? Oh, the front? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it saved it from going west. Actually, we had 2 little fronts kind of go through. So we had the one front, which actually caused the storm to move to the north here. The whole reason that the system ended up moving to the north here. So we had, let me move down a little bit here. So we'll zoom out a bit as well. So yeah, basically what happened, the system was going westward. There really wasn't much moving it. So it's, it was going westward, but then we had that frontal system come through with, new air mass rolling in, more drier air mass. That's why the Gulf is so dry. We have this front kind of rolling through and just drying out the Gulf. And then of course, like I said, ahead of a frontal system, you have the, parallel winds to the front itself. So the winds ahead of a front go kind of parallel to the front. And then behind it, you have the winds that are perpendicular to the front there. But what essentially happened was, this front coming through has allowed for the system to, steer to the north because it got caught ahead of the front here. So that's what moved it. Because, it was barely moving. So, even that weak front that rolled through, it wasn't even that strong of a front. It's just that it was just so easy to be caught because it had, like, no forward motion. It was only moving 2 miles an hour there for a while, so... let's see. So you do your own stuff, not affiliated with any national entities. Yeah. So I'm completely private organization. That's why I developed, this channel, is to help out you guys. Like I said, I also do my weather research on my own as well. So yeah, there's a lot more behind the scenes than a lot of you guys think that there is with this channel. It's just a lot of studying I've done. I have like over a year's worth of data. With my weather station that I have. So I've been studying the environment. And one thing that's really interesting about Florida, and I'm going to shut up about this and we'll get back to Melissa, is the sea breezes. Like, those are so much fun to to track, especially during like our rainy season and stuff. The really cool thing about sea breezes, you got the diurnal heating. So basically, the sun heats up the ground, right, over Florida. And what this actually does, so hot air rises, so it heats up the ground, creates this void of lower pressure over Florida, because the hot air rising is actually lifting that air off the ground, which is creating lower pressure. And what that essentially does is that actually draws in air from not just the East Coast or the West Coast, but both. So the air actually goes in to fill the void, because of the heat that's going up. So the air goes up, and you have the air coming inland here. So basically, it's sea breezes, and you get these really cool looking frontal sea breezes on radar. You can actually see, and because this is coming inland, this actually creates a source of lift, vertical velocity, which as getting that warm air off the ground and into the cooler atmosphere above can create convection and thunderstorms. So that's why another reason why we get so many storms is because we have a lot of vertical velocity from the sea breezes, because we get so much heat, so much sun, that it creates this lower void of pressure over Florida like daily. Anyways, enough of the nerd talk. I just that's just one of the things I thought was so cool about like measuring with my mesonet there. It's just it's really neat, to be able to do the research and just kind of see what the environment's doing, in real time. It's really cool. Really cool. Let's see here. It's an awesome setup. You really have a passion for this. Yeah, definitely. I've been doing this for a while. It actually started when I was young. I was let's see here. How old was I? I was probably 10 or so. I mean, this is like 2012, 2011 maybe. My neighbors bought me a little cheap Accurite weather station, and I would jot down whenever we get a winter storm or something this is when I lived in Virginia. I'd jot down the information, like the temperature, how much snow we've gotten, and I'd graph it at the end by hand. That really gave me the passion to start doing research. And then over the years, 2020, I bought my first parts to that station, but I didn't get it up until early 24 with my friend Quentin from St. Louis. He helped me. I bought all the parts. He actually specializes in building these equipment, in these mesonets and stuff. So I sent it to him. He built it, gave me this care package back, and I built it, put it all together while he wired it up for me, which is super nice of him. But yeah, man, it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool. In which since then I've been able to do a lot of research, not only just on hurricanes, but just daily Florida weather, frontal systems, normal storms, and stuff like that. Let's see here. I've learned a lot watching these streams. Good job. Thank you. I appreciate that. PC says, do I plan to head into meteorology like at news stations? Honestly, I would. And one thing I wanted to do was become a meteorologist for the National Weather Service. That's something I've always wanted to do. The only problem is, and people are like, do you have your Met degree? I don't, but I can hold up to what some Mets can actually talk about. I know what people are saying because I've done so much research. I know what a lot of things are in weather. But the only reason I haven't is because of how much it costs. It's like $100,000 for 4 years to get my simple bachelor's degree in meteorology, right? When, first of all, that is $100K in debt. Second of all, you're not even guaranteed a position at the Weather Service. It's a pretty high competitive job. And another thing I've always wanted to do as a kid was be a YouTuber. So being on YouTube and doing weather, I mean, it makes sense, right? But, for people who are like, well, you're not a meteorologist, you obviously don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. Because, I've been studying this, books, articles, even classes I've taken. I've taken many meteorology classes that, non-college classes, but several classes on it, and just experience of, monitoring the weather, tracking the weather over these years. I mean, a good 10 plus years I've been doing this, not on YouTube, but, just tracking weather and doing the research and everything. It's whenever somebody would be playing video games, I would be kind of being a nerd and, learning more about the weather, which I've accumulated a lot of knowledge over the years, so for the people who saying I'm not as good as a meteorologist, I don't have the paper that shows I'm a meteorologist, but I tell you what, I still know what I'm talking about because I've done countless amounts of research. I mean, you could literally quiz me. You can literally quiz me on some things, and I'd be able to tell you. Anyways, see, it's rare that regular people can actually talk to a weatherman. Yeah, that's another thing about the channel is like I like to be in depth and sometimes try to explain things. I might not be the best teacher out there to explain everything, but I like to give my take on things, and it's cool. And one of the most rewarding thing about what I do, I love how this has just kind of turned into kind of a kind of just me ranting, but one of the most rewarding things that I always love about this, is helping people out. There is a time, I promise we're getting ready to get back into Melissa, I'm sorry. There was a time during one of these severe weather coverages that we did a couple of years ago. Somebody was just so happened to be on my channel at the right time. There was a tornado that was unwarned. This was, I want to say 22 or 23. There was an unwarned tornado. I told them to get to shelter because I saw what it was doing. They left. I told them to leave because they were in a trailer. They left. They came back, and their place was destroyed. So if they happened to join my stream at the right time, they would have likely still been there. That, to this day, has kept me motivated to keep giving you guys these updates, keep you guys updated. Because, even if it's just helping out somebody for one storm, it's worth my entire channel and my full dedication. So it's just, that's the most rewarding part, is knowing that I've helped people during these events. Now, I might not be able to physically be at these places to help them, clean up and stuff like that, but, what I can do is share my knowledge about meteorology and share my true passion to you guys, and kind of tell you guys what you can do in order to stay protected and to stay weather aware and prepared. That's what this channel will always be about, is ensuring that you guys are staying safe. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, in the field that are in it, for the money and stuff. Like I mentioned, I have donation stuff. If you wanted to ever support us, which, like I said, you definitely do not have to. But there's a lot of people that kind of push it a lot. But for me, it's just helping, and for just the weather itself, because it's a true passion of mine, that it always has been, which is just always been amazing. I just always loved it. But anyways, moving on though. Let's see. You probably have more knowledge and passion than most graduates. I don't know. They obviously know what they're talking about too. Graduates, they've taken the classes. The difference between me and a certified meteorologist is that they have a paper saying they know about weather. I literally know most about what they've learned, except I don't have that paper because it costs $100,000 or more. So it's just too much. I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to, any of that mess. Anyways, moving on here, getting out of that. But yeah, that's just a little bit of backstory for some of you guys if you ever wonder. But anyways, all right, so let's give an update on Melissa now. So we are currently a Category 2 storm. We are sustaining 100-mile-an-hour winds, central low down to 970 millibars, which, the pressure has definitely gone up a lot. But like we mentioned, maybe some brief strengthening could occur between now and later this morning by only 5 mile an hour. So not really much. It's kind of more sustaining itself at the moment right now. So 105 will be gusting to about 125. Now, you got to remember that out here by Bermuda, we do need to keep an eye out there for those areas as well. Now, like we mentioned, there's not going to be a whole lot of rainfall for Bermuda, thankfully, as opposed to some of these other areas that really got it. We have a lot of that drier air from the backside, on the left-hand side and the southern side, really starting to infiltrate, which is going to allow for it to, to really kind of dry out the mid-levels of the atmosphere, which will be good because that will, allow for not really much of a flooding concern. But the wind field, that wind field's still going to be there. So that's one of the big things here. Let's bring you guys back to models here. So actually, let me just show you guys what we're talking about here. So if I was to bring up the HWRF here, and we'll look at that 700 to 300 HPA relative humidity. So this is basically kind of low, upper kind of low mid-atmosphere to upper atmosphere humidity stacked, essentially. So you have here, let me go over here. You have the brown, which indicates a very dry environment, and you have the greenish blue, which indicates a very moisture-filled environment. And we can actually confirm this by grabbing a sounding, and if you look, there's a big gap on our skew-T chart here between our dew point line here. So this is actually at a vertical representation. Here's our temperatures. This is altitude and pressure equivalent. You got the green, which that's your dew point temperature, and you got your red, which is your just your normal ambient temperature or your dry bulb temp. So between the two, you guys can see that there's a pretty big gap between our dew point and our temperature. Now, a bit of a fun fact: the more of a gap you have between your dew point and your temperature, the lower the humidity and less moisture there is in the air. Or less water vapor there is in the air, essentially. So you can see in the lower levels, we do have our temps and our dew points touching, so there could be a little bit of a cloud layer at the lower levels, but mid-levels are very dry. That's where a lot of your precipitation comes from. We're likely not going to be having many storms in that environment there. But as comparing to some of the the greenish blue areas here, you can see just how close your dew point line and your temperature line is. Whenever they're touching, that's high humidity, and we have ongoing condensing and saturation going on. Just rain is starting to fall whenever you have that type of environment, really moist environment. So but the thing about once we get to Bermuda, as you can see that the environment that we get into, a lot of the moisture is going to be kind of on that northeastern and northern side of the storm. Bermuda's environments, could be fairly dry, which could prevent a lot of convection and storm activity from going out there. While the wind field, you can still see. Actually, you can't. Looking at the side, you can see the winds throughout the atmosphere. So while the wind field is still strong, which is pretty much perfectly circular for the most part, or somewhat circular. It is circular, but it's not perfect. But the wind field still exists, even if there is really no rainfall. It's just how the system is organized here. But yeah, it seems like moisture really isn't going to be too much of an issue for them. As you can see, eventually, the mid-level's becoming very dry, big spacing, low humidity. But definitely still some lower level cloud layers here for sure. But yeah, so moisture, that's good. Moisture's not going to be an issue, but the winds will still be a bit of a problem though for Bermuda. And then, like I said, we're going to continue to watch the storm as it continues northeast, which as we approach out there by Newfoundland, we're definitely likely going to be getting quite a bit of impacts out here as well. We're definitely going to be dealing with, likely some pretty strong winds, some big waves and stuff like that. So we'll have to definitely look out for it. So those areas will definitely be impacted as well. Anyways, here is the satellite imagery here of Melissa as of right now. So whenever it comes to it, you can see that obviously there's no eye. We've been seeing a little bit disorganization going on, obviously, because it's not very good structurally right now. It just came off from making a lot of landfalls, so it's lost a lot of its strength and its structure. But it's still trying. I mean, we still got a pretty good amount of convection going on here. I mean, the storm is trying to kind of recover here, but it's spitting and sputtering a little bit. Like we mentioned, I mean, there could be a little bit of brief strengthening within the storm here between now and by the time we approach tomorrow by Bermuda. So we'll have to look. What's up, Jesse? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Saying salute, Andrew. Just popped in. I feel like I'm watching the end of a toxic yet fascinating relationship end with Melissa. Packs her bag and leaves destruction in her wake. Yeah, absolutely. But, like I mentioned, I mean, yeah, the worst is mostly over, of course. Between Jamaica, Cuba, and the Bahamas, they got hit absolutely the hardest. But still not done yet, unfortunately. Like I said, we still have to go through Bermuda. And then, like I said, the growing concern for eastern Canada out there by Newfoundland there, we'll have to look out for. So after that, once we get beyond that point, we'll be good. But it kind of approaches out there by Newfoundland pretty much late Halloween, early November 1st here. So, kind of, right between then. But the storm by then will be moving a lot faster, which, I mean, it's already picked up a lot of speed, actually. Right now it's moving, I think, let's see, was it 20 something miles an hour? Yeah, 21 miles an hour right now. It's moving to the northeast, so it's definitely picked up a lot of speed. I mean, before it was moving 2 miles an hour just south of Jamaica, so definitely picked up a lot of speed since then because of that front we were talking about. Jesse. Oh, man. Let's see here. Can the eye develop again, or is it over? I think it's over. I don't think we're going to get an eye anymore. Because at this point in time, we're starting to get a little bit of wind shear, which is kind of also showing in the movement of the storm here. I mean, we're picking up speed. There's a lot more winds pushing against the storm. There's a bit of wind shear. Not to mention those waters, they're going to start getting pretty cool soon, in which, it's really probably not. I mean, I don't think we're going to get an eye anymore out of Melissa, to be honest with you. And you can see it there. If I go and actually bring up those sea surface temperatures, let's do West Atlantic. There you go. So you can actually see, where's Bermuda? Okay, so there's Bermuda right there. I know it's kind of hard to see. That little speck there, that's Bermuda right there. So you can see the waters out there is about 25, 24 degrees Celsius, right? About 24. So 24 Celsius, that's actually kind of cold for tropical development. So a little bit of a fun fact. So basically you need 26 degrees Celsius waters or greater for sustaining and developing tropical activity. Now, it doesn't just rely on sea surface temperatures. There's a lot of other things it relies on, like moisture content, also, moisture throughout the atmosphere, basically, and also wind shear, the wind's pushing and acting against the storm. If you have no wind shear, high amounts of moisture, in an environment where we have 24 degrees Celsius waters, it's unlikely to really do a whole lot. But, it's kind of like a flame. You need heat, you need fuel and oxygen to have a flame. It's kind of similar to hurricanes, as you need the heat, moisture, and, a calm, wind shearless environment. And if you take away one of those, it ain't going to really work, right? Like making a cake, baking or just cooking in general. I mean, if you add too much of one thing or if you pull out something, it doesn't turn out right. It's kind of what's going on here. We're going to be getting into those cooler waters by the time we get out there towards Bermuda. So, at that point in time, we're going to be, kind of taking away some of its heat, which will be kind of limiting what the storm can actually do. Let's see here. Ball says, thanks for all your hard work and dedication, Andrew. Cheers. Thanks, man. You're very welcome. Like I said, I'm here for you guys, but I really appreciate the kind words, my friend. Thank you very much. What's up, Scott? Good to see you. Saying hi, Andrew, and everyone else. But good to see you, Scott. Hope you're doing all right. But yeah, the waters are going to be pretty cool, though. I mean, right now the storm is right in here. It's in about 27, 28 degrees Celsius water. So, I mean, it's still warm enough to maybe briefly pick up some strength. Like I mentioned, Hurricane Center does have it gaining about 5 mile an hour winds, which wouldn't really do a whole lot, to be honest. 5 mile an hour winds is not that much of a change, but it's just, like we mentioned, it's also encountering a bit of wind shear too. If I was to bring up the models again, which we'll hop you guys over here again real quickly. If I was to bring up the models and such and pull up the, see, that's the lower dynamic. Oh, where's it at? Oh. Wait, why is it? Hold on. Let's do North Atlantic here. Here we go. There we go. For some reason, it wasn't on the show there. You see the jet stream here? So the red is showing a high shear environment for the most part. So this right here, that's where the storm is at. Here, let me bring up my pen so I can actually write on the screen here. Okay. Oops. Never mind. It's glitching on me again. This darn pen, dude. This application I have. Sometimes it makes me restart the whole application before I can even draw. So good news, it doesn't take long at all. Here we go. So it's already up. So here it is right here. So that's the system, and you can see we have the jet stream, kind of like this, right? So we have a lot of wind shear, especially on the western side of the storm. So that's why it's also going to be kind of limited. But, that's also, kind of carrying the storm there, too, to the northeast here, which it'll continue to. But, yeah, it's going into a higher wind shear environment, for one. But you can see it's eventually going to get, really caught up in that jet there. But it's also eventually going to be running into cooler waters and the moisture. It looks like some dry air starts to kind of get to it as well, as you can see. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. You can see that dry air intrusion right here on the southern side of the storm. So we have the low right here. A lot of the moisture is on that northern part of the storm there. But yeah, you can see that dry air intrusion, really kind of starting to pile in here under the storm. So I mean, it's honestly a combination of everything of why the storm's going to start to weaken soon. It's because of less moisture, more drier air, less warm waters, more cooler waters, and more wind shear and all too. But like we mentioned, I mean, it's still going to be fairly strong for a little bit. I mean, as we approach out there by Bermuda, the system will likely still be a lower end Category 2. So not a whole lot. Like I said, between now and then, it's pretty much just going to mostly sustain itself for a little bit. But it's going to be having a hard time doing such, which, like I said, it doesn't look very healthy right now. It's very disorganized, and it's not very happy. Yeah, not very happy at the moment here. But as it passes by, as it approaches towards Bermuda, we'll be sustaining about 105, gusting to 125. But remember, that's not what Bermuda is going to be feeling. They're going to be feeling sustained winds of probably about 50 to 60 miles an hour, gusting possibly about 70 or 80 or so. It just depends. Some of the models are kind of all over the place. But then at this point in time, we take away the warm waters, and it'll really start to weaken. For the morning, the later morning of Halloween or mid-morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, it has systems sustaining about 85, gusting 105 or so, which still somehow manages to be a hurricane up until the point we get out there near eastern Newfoundland there. But honestly, it's kind of more like post-tropical at that point. While it still has similar characteristics to hurricane strength, like I said, the environment that it's in is non-tropical. It doesn't have warm enough waters to keep it classified as a hurricane or a tropical cyclone, but it's still a very strong low regardless, and still has similar impacts. Storm surge and what I meant to say was swelling in some areas, and even storm surge actually, and also big waves and stuff like that. So. Anyways, let's actually measure the storm here. Let's see just how big it is. So if we go from north to south, it's about 700 miles. You know what it is, though? A lot of that's our upper levels, the upper level venting. A little bit of another fun fact for you guys. So in the lower atmosphere, in the northern hemisphere, you have the low. The system actually rotates counterclockwise, right? So the cool thing is that as you go up in the atmosphere, the winds change their direction. They actually go clockwise. In the upper atmosphere, lower atmosphere, they go counterclockwise. It's like a big corkscrew. It goes, comes in, it gets closer to the center, then it goes up, and then it spreads out and goes out this way, which is definitely pretty interesting. But yeah, it's the opposite in the southern hemisphere. And we got Coriolis effect, I think, for that. Definitely a pretty interesting phenomenon. Another interesting phenomenon we've seen earlier this year was the Fujiwara effect. The dual kind of orbiting systems that we had. I forgot which one that was, what storm that was, but it's another pretty cool phenomenon. But anyways, so that's pretty much what's going on now. I mean, like I mentioned, at this point in time, the impacts, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, the storm, this was updated at 2 a.m., so this is out of date. So, I mean, at this point in time, hurricane force winds are well out of the Bahamas, so we're good. Right now, it's just kind of tropical storm force conditions for some of the central northern islands here of the Bahamas, but at this point in time, it's definitely weakened quite a bit. So, honestly, we're probably going to be rolling off here in a moment because, I mean, there's really not much more need of coverage right now. But like I said, we'll be live to cover the system later this evening and tomorrow morning as it does make that approach out there by Bermuda. So be sure, if you haven't already, to consider subscribing, maybe leaving a like if you could, and maybe even sharing the stream too to your friends and your family, just to help kind of spread the word, and that way we can help keep everybody up to date with everything. But yeah, the approach out there by Bermuda is going to be right around midnight or so. out there for Eastern time. So for you guys, it'll be an hour earlier, but roughly. But yeah, we'll definitely be there to cover that, and of course we'll also be covering Eastern Newfoundland there too. So we'll be sure to keep you guys in the loop. Alrighty, everybody. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and roll off here. If y'all have any final questions before I go ahead and throw them down in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them. But if not, then if you don't have any questions, then we'll go ahead and call it a stream. Yeah, a bit of a shorter stream today, but like I said, there's the storm is kind of pulling out of the Bahamas now, and it's mostly in open water at this point in time, so no imminent threat, except for Bermuda, like we mentioned. In the future, we do have that concern, which we'll be covering here. But all right, everybody. Well, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining. I just want to say I really appreciate y'all very, very much. Thank you guys for hanging out with us this morning. I hope you guys have a great day at work or school or just whatever you're doing today. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Y'all be safe out there. Y'all be sure to check up on your friends and your family if they were impacted. Make sure everything's going okay. Definitely be sure to say your prayers to the people who were affected over the last several days. It's been pretty nasty. But all right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Let's see here. Gringo says, "Thank you, Andrew. Take care. See you soon." Yep, same to you, my friend. You take care. I'll catch you here in another update. We'll be live later on again today for coverage in Bermuda. But alrighty, everybody. Thanks for joining. See you guys here in the next one. Y'all have a great day, and we'll catch y'all later on. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.